With the Kreg Adaptive Cutting System, you can make a wide variety of cuts all with one system. You can rip, cross-cut, cut angles, even bevels in solid wood and plywood, so it's super versatile. Here, we'll show you how to make a few of those common cuts so you can get started with precise cutting right away. And by the way, if you haven't paired the saw, the track, and the table together, you're going to want to do that before you start cutting. We've done setup videos and you can check those out on our site. For now, let's get started cutting. Cross-cutting a board with the Adaptive Cutting System couldn't be much simpler. And that's because the system has ways built in to ensure that you'll get a straight, square cut. It's done using these VersaStops that come with the project table. You'll notice that there's short and tall VersaStops. The short ones are shorter so that they will drop into place under the track and give you clearance, while the taller ones provide maximum support against the edge of your workpiece. So with the VersaStops in place in one row, all you have to do is slide the edge of your board against them, bring down the track, and you know that everything's aligned for a perfectly straight and square crosscut. The beauty of cross-cutting with the Adaptive Cutting System, though, is that you can lock in exactly precise measurements and make repeatable cuts. So whether you need to make one cut or many, you know you'll get the results that you want. And that's all done using the repetitive stops and the built-in measuring scales in the project table. All you have to do is slide the repetitive stop into the channel and then lock it down at the measurement you want. So in this case, let's say you want to cut a piece 18 inches long. Just align the end of the repetitive stop with the 18, tighten the knob, and then we'll reposition this VersaStop to help support the board. Again, slide the board against the stops, move it over until it hits the end of the repetitive stop, and now you know that you'll get a straight and square crosscut at the exact length that you need. With the measuring scales that are built into the project table, you can make crosscuts up to 25 inches long. If you want to cut a longer piece, that's no problem. You can still measure it accurately using the 48-inch extension. It has measurements on the bar. It slides into the channel and simply aligns with a mark on the measuring scale. So let's say you want a piece 33 inches long. Just bring the bar in and lock it down. Now the process is just the same. Slide the board against the VersaStops and bring it out till it butts against the head of the extension bar. Bring down the track and you can make that longer crosscut just as easily. The Adaptive Cutting System becomes even more versatile by allowing you to rip materials down to narrower widths. That means you can take solid wood or plywood and cut it down to any custom width that you want. And it's a little bit different from ripping, but still very simple, still extremely accurate. In the case of ripping, you're going to use two repetitive stops, and they're positioned the opposite direction so that they'll slide under the track. They still have a measuring scale to align with, so all you have to do is say, let's rip to 5 inches wide, align the end with the 5, align this stop also with the 5. Now, when you bring the piece over against the repetitive stops, you know you'll get a straight parallel edge cut. There's a VersaStop down here just to butt the workpiece against and keep it from wanting to move. Drop the track, and with 3 points of contact, plus the anti-slip strips on the underside of the track, you're ready to cut. With the Adaptive Cutting System, you can even make rip cuts in short pieces and do it safely. And that's done with the joining bar that fits between the two repetitive stops. That way, even a short piece like this one can get support. So, all you have to do is set them just the same way. Let's go to the same 5-inch measurement. Lock it down. Now, this short piece is supported by the joining bar, so I can still get a nice straight parallel rip cut and do it safely. Because the repetitive stops are reversible and there are 2 measuring scales, you can also make wide rip cuts really easily. Just spin it around and line this repetitive stop up with, say, 16 inches. Do the same with this one. And now I can make a wide rip in something like a sheet of plywood with the same accuracy. Lots of projects call for angled cuts, especially 45-degree miters. And the Adaptive Cutting System project table makes those really easy. That's because the holes in the table are located at 90 and 45 degrees. So, to make a 45-degree miter, all you have to do is drop in a VersaStop, drop in another, butt your piece against it, and you know that when you cut, it'll be exactly a 45-degree angle. Of course, you'll also run into projects that call for angles other than 45 degrees, and that's where the miter guide comes in. It lets you cut angles from 0 to 60 degrees. It's very easy to use. Just slide it into the same channel where you'd normally put a repetitive stop, and then set the angle. In this case, let's go 30 degrees. Then you can slide the guide in place. I like to get it up nice and close to the cut line and lock it down. Now, with your piece butted against the miter guide, you know that that angle will be exactly the angle you want, 30 degrees in this case. If you're cutting on the go and can't use the Adaptive Cutting System project table, or if you have a piece that's longer than the table's capacity, you can still get great results by simply removing the guide track and cutting with it on its own. It's easy to get great results. Just make a couple of marks on your piece at the dimension you want. In this case, I want a 12-inch wide piece from this plywood. And then just line up the edge of the anti-chip strip with the marks that you made. That tells you exactly where the saw blade's going to travel, so you know you'll get an accurate result. And because the track has anti-slip strips on the underside, it'll stay in place without clamps while you cut. When you're cutting off the project table, you can still get the advantages of built-in measuring with a couple of Adaptive Cutting System accessories. In this case, the parallel guides. They attach to the guide track, lock onto the edge, and then allow you to set the measurement that you want. In this case, I want a 25-inch wide panel. Heavy-duty brakes lock the tapes down. All you have to do is hook it over the edge, and now I know that the distance from this edge to the edge of the guide track is 25 inches, and I don't have to measure, mark, and align the track. You can also rip cut accurately with built-in measuring when you're cutting with the guide track off the Adaptive Cutting System project table by using the rip guides. Like the parallel guides, They have a built-in measuring scale that you can lock in at the dimension that you want. And they attach to the track the same way. How they work is a little bit different, and it's easier to see if you actually lift the track up. You can see that the bars on the rip guides rest against the edge of the board. That way, they position it under the track so that you know when you cut, you'll get a straight edge and make a rip that's truly parallel. Again, the track will stay in place without clamps while you cut. Now you should have a good idea of some of the cuts that you can make with the adaptive cutting system. Ripping, cross-cutting, even cutting angles, both on the project table and off. As you can see, the system is very versatile. So, now you're ready to take your adaptive cutting system and conquer your cuts.